Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome now to Avry Sports, Rich MacLeod, a writer for Gang Green Nation. Rich, how you doing this afternoon, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. I know in New York, I'm sure right now there's a bit of things are interesting right now for your team. I know losing to the Steelers, 19-6, to lose to a winless team, that's never a good thing for a franchise.
Yeah, the Steelers, as bad as they've played, I don't think they're your average winless team. You know, they still got a lot of players on that team that have won championships and have been in the playoffs. And when you have Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown and some of the guys on defense like Troy Polamalu and Ike Taylor and Ryan Clark, guys like that, it's never going to be easy to beat them. But you definitely don't want to drop a game to a winless team in your own building like that.
No, absolutely not. Of course, we saw once again Geno Smith, his guy who showed brilliance against the Falcons, and in the game against Pittsburgh here, we still saw how he's still a rookie, and really right now, it's so important, is it not, to try and stick with him and stand by him and say, you know what, you're a starter no matter what, good or bad, this season?
Yeah, I think that's what the Jets are doing right now, and I know they brought in the veteran quarterback, David Garrard, about a week ago. He won't be active for another week or so. But that's really just for insurance if he gets hurt. Mark Sanchez done for the year, obviously, with the shoulder surgery. Geno's the guy. You saw him have a horrible game 2 weeks ago in Tennessee. 4 turnovers, some really bad picks, a really bad fumble when he tried to maneuver the ball around his back. But, these are rookie growing pains. The Jets went through with Sanchez. But Geno's got an upside. We've seen that. He had a great game against the Falcons. He showed good things against the Buccaneers and the Bills earlier in the season. And he's going to have these games. And just Dick LeBeau is a great defensive coordinator. And he just had his way with Geno Smith, who made some bad decisions yesterday.
No, he absolutely did. And it's funny because right now in the AFC, usually when the Jets have an okay start in the AFC East, by now New England pulls away, but they're still very much in the thick of things in this division. New England's at 5-1, the Dolphins are at 3-2, and they're at 3-3. I mean, they still have a great shot at the playoffs right now.
It might be a little too early to talk about playoffs. The Jets have, obviously they don't have the most talent in the world, especially on offense. They've played well at times, but they've been inconsistent. They haven't strung together 2 straight wins all year. It's been win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. So you're going to need to see a little more consistency. Geno Smith needs more help on offense. They lost Mike Goodson for the season today. He tore his MCL and ACL in yesterday's game. You lost Kellen Winslow for 4 weeks because he did some PEDs allegedly. You got Santonio Holmes hasn't played in 2 weeks, and you don't know when he's going to play again. And even if he does, you don't know how he will be healthy. Stephen Hill's been inconsistent. So the Jets, they're going to need some help on offense. I don't know if they're going to bring somebody in or if they're just going to have to step it up from the guys that they already have. But the Patriots with that win yesterday are 5-1. So the Jets are really going to have to win next Sunday against the Patriots to even think about playoffs right now.
And you mentioned the Patriots game. I know when they played New England before, it was a tight game. They gave New England a fight. What do they need to do to try and neutralize Tom Brady next week here?
Yeah, the defense played really well against the Patriots the first time. The only big mistake was they brought an all-out blitz and missed an assignment on the first drive of the game. That left Aaron Dobson, 20 yards of separation, easy touchdown. The rest of the game, the Patriots only had a couple field goals, and they missed a third. The Jets are going to have to play strong up front, and the formula to beat Tom Brady is and has always been pressure him and hit him. Even if you're not sacking him, you got to hit him. He'll get more tentative. You saw yesterday, even though they did pull it out, Brady hasn't been exactly the same. He threw the touchdown with 5 seconds left. Prior to that, he hadn't thrown a touchdown in almost 2 weeks. So you're going to have to do a lot of that. The receivers are still unproven. You got Kendall Tompkins has been playing better. Dobson's been all right. Edelman has been a good slot receiver for them. But Danny Amendola hasn't done much, and it looks like he might be injured again. You don't know if Rob Gronkowski is going to be back or not. Every week it seems like he's about to be, but then, he said he can't play. So the Jets are going to have to be strong up front, and their secondary has not been as good as we're used to this season. So the secondary is going to have to stay on their assignments and not leave guys open. And you're going to have to, you can't give Brady time or else he'll kill you.
Absolutely. You mentioned now Antonio Cromartie. He came back from injury. To have him back in the lineup, I know, just to have his leadership there, how much more can that improve the Jets' defense, do you think, going on as the season continues, Rich?
Yeah, Kamari played yesterday, and going into the game, it was big for him to play just because they're so banged up right now. Milner hasn't played in 3 weeks, and he's still a rookie. But Kamari hasn't really been the same guy this year. He played well, I thought, against Julio Jones and the Falcons. I know Jones ended up with almost 70 yards of offense, but half of those were on a ridiculous one-handed catch at the end of the game. It's hard to really fault that. But yesterday, Kamari was not good. I don't know if it was just the injury and he wasn't 100%. I mean, at this point, no one's 100% in the NFL. But he got lucky early when Brown dropped a touchdown, and then later in the game, he completely blew an assignment, and he gave up a long touchdown pass, and that was basically the only touchdown of the game for either side. So Kamari on the field is big, but he has to play big.
Going back to the offensive side of the ball for a second, of course, with the injuries in the Jets backfield, do you think it's possible for this year for one of the healthy backs to emerge as a starter? Because having 2 or 3 running backs doesn't always work.
That's a good question, and I'm not exactly sure. Going into the year, it seemed that perhaps Chris Avry, who they traded for from New Orleans, was going to be the bell cow running back. He's had a couple injury problems, and since when he left with an injury in week 2, Bilal Powell came in, and he got a majority of the snaps because with Avry was out, and that was when Mike Goodson was still suspended. And Powell, for a while, led the AFC in rushing yards. So I think he could possibly become the guy, but I really think it's going to be a split between Avry and Powell. They both offer different things. Powell can catch the ball in the backfield. Chris Avry, while he's a power back, he also has a lot of burst, something you wouldn't see out of Sean Green, for example, from last year. The injury to Goodson definitely hurt them. He's the fastest player they have on offense, and he's out for the year now. So it went from a 3-headed monster to really like a dual threat kind of system. I'm not sure you're going to see one or the other of the 2 backs get a majority of the carries.
Okay. Now in this team, there's always been talk about Rex Ryan. He's a great coach. He's a bad coach, back and forth. If this team comes out and has an 8-win year, a 9-win year, would that be enough to save his job, do you think?
I think so, because going into this year, you had certain members of the media, I'm not going to name any names, but you had people saying they were the worst team in football. They were 32nd in the league. A lot of people say, they're going to win 3 games, they'll win 2 games, 4 or 5 max. And they've already won 3 games in 6 weeks, and no one would have expected that. So while 3-3 is disappointing in the way where you just beat the Falcons and you lose to the winless Steelers, you have to take a step back and realize the Jets some people didn't expect the Jets to win 3 games out of 16, and they've done it in 6 games. So I think if the Jets go 8-8, 9-7, even if they miss the playoffs, but they play that well, I do think that Rex Ryan's job will be safe.
I have to agree with you on that. I know right now they're playing New England, but how important is it to that Rex Ryan make sure his team is ready for New England and they don't focus on week 11, 12, 13, don't get ahead of themselves and think, yeah, we kept the game close, but New England's a team where if you don't come with your A game early, you can be down 15, 20 points by halftime.
Yeah, you're right, because, the Jets played them close in week 2. They lost 13-10, and they really could have won that game. But they can't go back and look at, hey, we played them well a couple weeks ago, so we're just automatically going to play them well again in our building. That's not how it works. You have to prepare. You have to change things up on both defense and offense. You have to be different, because in years past we've seen the Jets have lost their last 5 games to the Patriots going back to when they beat them in the playoffs 3 years ago. And since then, they've played them tough in the first game, and in the second game, they've gotten blown out almost every time. Last year, the blowout was unfortunately the game that we'll always remember for being the butt fumble. But that was the second game of the year when they should have won the first game. They ended up losing in overtime, and in the second game, I believe they lost 45-19. So they have to really prepare and not look back at the last game.
It's true. I know. Last question for you here, Rich. I know for a long time in New York and just the whole region, the team in the past 5 to 7 years has been the better team, has been the Giants. What's it like in the area among the fans of the Jets be the premier team right now in New York?
Yeah, it's been a really strange beginning to the fall up here. No one expected the Giants to be bad, and certainly no one expected them to be 0-6. If you were to tell anyone one of the New York teams would be 3-3 and one would be 0-6 after 6 weeks, not one single person would have told you that the Giants would be 0-6 and the Jets would be 3-3. So while the Jets haven't, quote-unquote, taken over the town, because it'll really always be a Giant town, and that's fine, the Jets have definitely gotten a lot more of the headlines, although, the Giants, I don't know what's up with the Giants. It's just...
it's baffling.
A lot of people are getting on them, and they should be getting on them. So I don't know if it's taking the pressure off the Jets or putting more pressure on the Jets. But right now, the Jets are a good story in New York, and the Giants are the circus that everyone expected the Jets to be.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Rich, I would like to thank you for coming on to the show today. Hopefully, we can do it again sometime.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me.